Hello and welcome back. Today I will be building the Panther D from ICM. I hope you enjoy. Let's start with the suspension. Each arm has its own guiding pin to ensure a correct placement. Since they are not movable, I can glue them in place. I don't have any aftermarket accessories for this kit, but I will still add some self-made additions later on. After finishing the suspension, I can add the backplate. The fit wasn't perfect, but with some wiggling all went where it should. For some reason the holes for the fuel tanks were a lot smaller than the pins on the fuel tanks themselves, so I had to take a drill and drill them all out. Next are the road wheels. Because it seems like Germany wanted to get the record for most wheels on a tank, this part will take some time. But with the magic of editing, you don't have to watch me clean up wheels for 2 hours. I already built the first track off camera, because I had to figure out the best way to work with these kind of tracks. I think they came out quite nice. Now I will show you what I did. First I am adding all the road wheels, the drive sprocket and the idler wheel. Make sure to put the single and the double wheels in the right position, otherwise the track won't fit. I am gluing the wheels to each other, but I have to make sure that they don't get glued to the swinging arms. This was the most annoying and time-consuming part of the whole build, because I had to remove and clean all 216 single track links. I am using some tape to keep the parts from moving while I put them together. If the cleanup is done right, they click together quite easily most of the time. After assembling around 30 links, I use glue to keep them together. To straighten them, I am using a track link jig, but a ruler should work fine. By pushing, I can make sure to minimize the gaps. Before the glue has fully hardened, I am bending the track around the drive wheel, making sure to get the right position. Then I use some glue to lock everything in place. The remaining parts are added in the same way. Each track took around 3 hours to complete, but I think they look nice. There are quite a few moving parts in this kit, like this driver's hatch. As always, you have to take a close look at the instructions, which parts you have to glue to keep it movable. Despite having no photo-etched parts included in the kit, there are a lot of small details included, like these handles or some hooks. For these it's easier to use some fine tweezers for the right position. These are the brackets for the spare tracks. You have to carefully bend them in the right position. I then added all the missing hatches and the engine grills onto the upper hull. I used some cheap black crafting paint on the inside of the vehicle to hide the plastic. I align the two halves of the barrel as best as I can and glue them together. Using some clips, I make sure to minimize any possible gaps. After the glue has dried, I am using a sharp knife and some sandpaper to smooth everything. The breech was a little bit difficult to assemble. Because it should stay movable, you have to put all the pieces loosely into the mantlet. Then I used my tweezers to click them into the right position. With all pieces in the right position, I can glue these two parts into the turret. The hatches inside the turret are made from many small parts. Make sure to follow the instructions closely, because it only works if every piece is in the right place. I had to learn that the hard way. If you want to keep them closed anyway, you can of course just add them without the hinges. I'm not sure right now what I want to make out of this, so I will make them movable. Apparently the cupola is supposed to be movable as well, but I accidentally glued mine together. Now I just have to add some smoke launchers and a few handles, and the turret is finished. By carefully bending the mudguards with my pliers, I can make them look slightly damaged and more realistic. All the tools included with this kit are mounted onto these brackets. I wasn't sure if I wanted to add them before or after the painting, but I later decided to just attach them before the painting. The same goes for these track brackets I built earlier. With that, the building is almost completed, but as I said, I wanted to make some modifications to the kit. One of them is to add a slight armor texture with some Revell Plasto. I thin the putty with Tamiya glue and apply it in a thin layer all over the sides and the front. I then use some sandpaper to smooth it all out. I didn't really like the Revell putty on the hull, that's why I will be using this AK putty for the turret. It's water-based and should therefore be easier to work with. The mantlet was the only part of the Panther tanks that was made out of cast steel. That's why I will be applying a thicker layer of putty on the mantlet to create a stronger texture. Now I just have to attach the missing tools. Apparently some Panthers had add-on anti-aircraft armor applied to them in the field. I wanted to cover some of the engine grills with these armor plates. For that I used some leftover plastic rods and sheets and cut them into the right shape. I then glued them together like this using regular plastic cement. For sandbags I took some air drying clay from my local hobby shop. I shaped them like this and rounded the sides by rolling them. While they were still soft, I placed them onto the tank and pressed them firmly down. That way they later only fit into one place and look like they have actual weight. And with that, the building part is finished. Let's take a closer look at the result. I added some additional storage items and some small branches made from seafoam. If I make a diorama out of this, I may add these two figures as well. The side skirts are just added temporarily, because I may modify them later on. I hope you enjoyed this build, and don't forget to like the video and comment if you have any feedback or suggestions. If you want to see more content like this, you should subscribe to my channel, I would really appreciate that. I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.